Hello and welcome to the Utah Puck Report. I'm your host, Jay Stevens. Here we go. We keep getting to know and learn more about our Utah Hockey Club players, and now we're getting to know the players one-on-one. Michael Carcone, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Excited. I got to watch you play a little bit last year. I kind of was ignoring Arizona, but I was a LA Kings fan, which I got to stop admitting now. Like now we have a team. You're our team. But there were games I was watching that they had to win to get in the playoffs, and you guys were out there, and somehow you just kept stealing games. And so I got to watch you play a little bit last year, and you're a fun player to watch play. Can you tell the Utah fans what kind of player you are and what they can expect to see from you this season?
Yeah, I think I'm a speedy winger. I bring a lot of skill to the game, and I have a really good shot. So I try to shoot the puck as much as I can, and try to just use my speed as much as I can. So I'm sure you'll see glimpses of that.
One thing I did notice from you last season is, and maybe this is just a coincidence or whatever, but you like to be on your right side and shoot for that top left corner. Is that something you work on all the time, or?
Yeah, I try to honestly different shots, being uncomfortable. I try to just work on that as much as I can, and maybe not, specific shots, but just depending on where you are on the ice and what do you think the goalie's going to do, and just kind of working on shots like that.
Okay. Um, looking at your stats and you've had a lot of time in the AHL, and we have players on all the time that talk about how they finally broke into the NHL and what they had to do to go from minors or whatever to juniors to the show. And looking at your last year in the AHL, if you ever talk about a guy that's like, here's my resume, this proves that I'm ready. Uh, 85 points in 65 games and 127 penalty minutes. Like that's pretty impressive. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a couple 10-minute majors in there, but yeah, I know. I don't know really kind of what happened. I know um, the previous year before that, I had a conversation at the end of the year with Stephen Potvin, our head coach, and he just said, like, I was getting called up at the time, and he just said, "Hey, like, you should think about maybe adding fighting to your game. Like, I know you can." And I started becoming more physical and just adding fighting into my game a little bit, and I started to see, the positive results of it, and getting more space out there, and eventually it just kind of became a thing in my game that I wasn't really going to get bullied around, and yeah, just kind of kept it going.
Well, I mean, that's pretty impressive because, typically you don't go to one of your skill guys out of the queue. Like you played in the queue, right?
Yeah.
We kind of skipped over that. We'll get back to that part, but typically you don't go to a skill guy and say, "Hey, you're coming in at 5'9", 5'10". What are you about 185?"
Yeah. Yeah.
That's typically not the guy the coach says, "Hey, why don't you go out and fight a little bit?" So was that a surprise to you and like a role change?
Yeah. And you know what? The older you get, like you see like the first, second round guys come in, and those are usually going to be your first, second line guys when you play in the NHL. Um, if they're not already in the NHL. So you kind of have to find a role, and your third, fourth line guys got to play a little bit heavier. You're going to get matched against heavier guys, the guys that are willing to do that. So you kind of just have to start to understand that, and be able to protect yourself. And I think I've finally, figured that out. So hopefully I can keep it going.
Did you start taking like boxing lessons or MMA stuff?
No, no, I did for a year, but I stopped. I don't really know why I stopped, but when I was younger, my brothers, they used to just put, like, they played and they would put helmets on me, and then they would practice just ripping them off, like punching them off and stuff. Because they played like junior C, like just like tier two hockey and stuff. So, and they were pretty tough. So they just taught me that way. So that's kind of how I learned.
that's that's the best part about having siblings, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and talk about your brothers a little bit more. We want to get to know you as a person. So where are you from? And
Yeah, so I'm from Whitby. I say Whitby. It could be the surrounding areas, Oshawa or Ajax. Um, I was born in Ajax Hospital, so if you hear Ajax when they announce me, it's not true. But yeah, I just grew up with a family of five of us: my mom, dad, My two older brothers, Tony and Tyler. My oldest brother, Tony, is a teacher. My middle brother, Tyler, is an iron worker. Um, we all three of us played hockey. Tony played junior C. Tyler played, I believe, junior C as well for a bit, and then he stopped as well. Tony became a teacher, so he went off to school, and I just kind of had the crazy road of playing Tier 2 Junior A in Ontario, and uh, I played a year there, and then at 18, I got offered to go to Quebec. I wasn't really talented enough to play in the OHL, I guess, and so yeah, I just went there for 2 years, and my second year, I had a really, really good year at 19. Went to development camp for Vancouver, and they signed me right out of development camp. And then from there, I didn't even play my overage year in Quebec. I ended up going pro, and yeah, the rest is really history. It's just 7 years in the minors, um, and then yeah, last year I really got my first full season in the NHL, and kind of ran with it.
When you went to that development camp, did you really believe that you'd get signed at the end of it, or did you think, all right, I'm going to go here and show myself, so maybe they invite me back next year?
Yeah, it was a really unique situation because I had never gone to an NHL camp or combine or anything before, and I was actually having conversations with Vancouver through the year, and they told me they were going to draft me at 19 years old, right? So they didn't end up drafting me. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to Toronto and Florida camp for development camp, which is kind of rare to do too.
Yeah.
Um, and then Vancouver's like, hey, like the general manager who was, I don't even know who it was at the time, but the general manager wouldn't sign a player without seeing him play. So they're like, hey, if you come and he sees you play and he likes you, he said he'll sign you. So I was like, okay, see you Florida, see you Toronto. Went to Vancouver, and I guess I impressed him. And then, yeah, just ended up signing.
That's so tough. Like, it's hard to give advice to kids too, because they're like, all right, I've got this opportunity and this opportunity. And Vancouver, if they said they were going to draft you and you didn't, there's got to be like this, well, then I'll go somewhere else and show you, or you had your chance. And then to have them say, no, look, come back, that's a big gamble.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of pride in it too, right? You kind of have to put your pride aside and um, look at the bigger picture. That's kind of what I've done my entire career. Really, is just kind of look at the bigger picture, and maybe you make a sacrifice now and it pays off in the future. So I just went in open minded, just tried to play my game, and I think it was like 5 days, and I knew that these 5 days could lead to something bigger. So I just tried to put my best foot forward, and came out on the other side.
Can you tell us a little bit how you went from Vancouver? So you played in Utica.
Yeah.
So Vancouver assigned you to Utica, and you're earning your way through minor league hockey. How do you end up as a roadrunner?
Yeah, so I ended up playing 2.5 years for Utica, um, and I just didn't feel like things were really going my way. I was getting scratched pretty much every year, about 10 games. So I just thought, hey, like maybe it's time for a change of scenery. And I was actually thinking about not playing hockey anymore.
Wow.
uh, yeah, and then I ended up getting dealt to Toronto. So for Josh Levo at Christmas, I when I got back in the lineup, I was doing really well, and I actually got a call from British Columbia, and I was like, oh, like I'm going up to the NHL, and I ended up getting traded. And then yeah, I went to Toronto, ended up scoring 20 goals, had a really good back half of the season. We went to the conference finals. I played for Sheldon Keefe at the time, and then so I learned a lot there. And then out of nowhere, I woke up in the morning. My dad knocked on my door in the basement. He's like, "Hey, like middle of summer, just like, hey, you got traded to Ottawa." I'm like, "Okay." So I had a couple of missed calls from Kyle Dubas. Dubas, it's like, "Hey, like I tried to get them to wait, but they wanted to put it out there." So as part of that really big, like I think it was CC Zaitsev Brown trade. Like there was a big trade. So I went to Belleville, had a really bad year in Belleville. Um, and then yeah, like the whole COVID thing happened. Uh, And I was in Ottawa training in like December the following year, trying to get ready. And basically, like, we don't know if we're going to bring you. We can only have 32 guys here. And I was like, oh, okay. And next thing you know, I have to leave Ottawa. I got traded to Nashville. So I'm like, okay, Nashville, like, when do you guys want me out there? They're like, we're not bringing you to NHL camp. I said, okay, well, when's the AHL camp start? Well, we'll let you know. Like a week goes by. I um, I get a call back from them, and they're like, yeah, like, you're not going to AHL camp. We have to split with Carolina, so we're putting all our young guys there. So now I'm like, am I playing in the East Coast League? What's going on here? Like, I don't
Wow.
know. I've never played in the East Coast. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, so I guess they would have had to pay me my full salary if I went and played in the East Coast. So they're like, no, we're gonna loan you to Tucson. And then it was like a 2-for-1 deal as me and Josh Wilkins. I don't know where he is now, but I think he's in the East Coast. And so we went into Tucson. I ended up having a really good year in Tucson. And then the following year, Arizona wanted to sign me. So that's how I ended up becoming a Coyote and then now player for Utah. So
That is crazy. What a
it,
story. Like I've talked to a lot of guys and I've talked to most of the guys on this team already. And we've talked a lot of trades and we've talked a lot of different paths, but that is a crazy path. And COVID, I mean, because I saw on your stats, I looked up your stats and I saw a loan in the AHL and I'm like, man, that doesn't happen very often. Like not many times do you see a guy get loaned from one club to another club in the A. Like you see it in European soccer. You don't see it a lot in the A. And then I was like, there's got to be a COVID story or something behind that. So that's an incredible ride. And then to be like, okay, I thought I was going to the East Coast League maybe, and now I'm in the NHL. That's got to be amazing feeling.
yeah. I honestly, it happened. It happens pretty quick. Um, I still remember my first game in the NHL a couple years ago when I was called up, and like from there to becoming a full-time NHLer, like I played 21 games and I played 9 the next season. Now I'm a full-time NHLer. I was like, it honestly happens pretty quick. And honestly, I just try to enjoy it. Like there's a lot of bouncing back and forth, but at the end of the day, it's pretty cool. So yeah, it's been a bit of a ride, but I'm happy I'm here.
Yeah, that's crazy. We're happy you're here too. And just so people know, I want to read some of your stats real fast here because your first year, like okay, with Belleville, you played 59 games, had 27 points and 64 penalty minutes. And then you get loaned to Tucson, 35 games, you had 25 points and 18 penalty minutes. And then then you had 62 penalty minutes and 41 points the next year. And then that last year, you're an alternate captain with Tucson. Like I said, 85 points, 31 goals, 54 assists, and 127 penalty minutes. The most you'd had before that was 64. No, you had 80 in juniors. But
Yeah,
that's incredible. Like, that's a guy that's willing to do whatever it takes to play in the show.
right.
Like, like you're that guy. You understand that the roles change and I gotta do it. That's freaking awesome, man. That's a cool story.
Uh,
Then tell me about the World Championship too. Like you get to wear the maple leaf. That's got to be quite an honor.
yeah, that was really cool too. During towards the end of the year, Josh Doan was called up with Tucson, and uh, after the game, one of the games, Shane Doan came up to me, and I'm pretty close with their family. They're really good people and pretty open and honest. So, but he just came up to me and he's like, "Hey, are you Canadian?" I'm like, "Yeah," and he started talking about the World Championships a little bit, but then it kind of died off. He just said, like, "Would you play?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then few weeks went by. We go into playoffs, and obviously I'm focused on that. We lose in 5 games in 3 games to Coachella Valley, and like a week goes by, and I get a call from Shane. He's like, "Hey, like, you know, are you interested?" And he's like, "All right, I'm going to talk to them." I said, "Okay, that's good." So he starts talking to everyone with Hockey Canada, and then I got my agent to call and just kind of check in because I was driving home from Arizona at the time, so it was a 36-hour drive. So I'm like, "Hey, like, should I be prepared to go here?" And they're like, "No, it's kind of a long shot. Like we have some guys that we think are going to come." I get home after the 36-hour drive. Everything's good. I'm trying to enjoy summer. I'm at a grocery store with my wife, and all of a sudden, I get a call, and it's Shane, and he's like, "Hey, you still wanna come?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, like we're gonna get you on a flight like tomorrow probably, so make sure you're ready." Like, okay. Uh,
Jeez.
Next thing you know, I'm in Budapest and playing for Team Canada, and then I honestly thought maybe I was going to be an extra player, or a guy that's just kind of filling in, and no, I was playing. So it was really cool. A completely different game out there. The fans were awesome. It's like almost like going to a soccer game. There's so many fans. They're just jumping, and to win gold medal was pretty cool too. So yeah, it was a pretty awesome experience.
10 games, 3 goals, 3 assists. That's pretty impressive. Where were you when you started hearing about potentially moving to Utah, about the team being moved to Utah? Do you remember all that?
Yeah, I it during the season, it kind of like we heard about it. I think just kind of on Twitter, and then it died out a little bit. And then towards the end of the year, we found out, um, just kind of near the end of the year, that we were gonna go. So there was nothing, no crazy story behind it really. Um, it just kind of happened, and we all really had to accept it. And I don't think anybody really knew anything about Utah, so I think there was a lot of questions. But once we got down here, and we got to see, you know, we got off the plane, and like the hangars were full with like minor hockey teams and fans, and we were like, whoa, like this is awesome. So completely different from Arizona. But yeah, we once that all kind of happened, I think everyone started to get like really excited and kind of turn the page a little bit and move on. So yeah.
So you'd never been here before that day, and you didn't really know much about Utah, even like the Mormon stories or any of that stuff?
No, like I knew nothing, honestly. I'm Canadian, right? So I was like, well, Utah. um, and then yeah, I guess as we went on, we kind of found out that it's a lot of Mormons here and stuff. And uh, over the last week, I've actually tried to just educate myself on everything, and just so I'm not rude, and I'm polite, and I know what's going on with everything. And yeah, I mean, we're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, that's
So
awesome that you guys are taking the time to figure that stuff out.
yeah.
All right, now the big question. You've heard we haven't reduced the amount of names. There were 6 finals on names. Have you picked a favorite? Does your wife have a favorite? Do your parents have a favorite?
I, for me, I think like I look at the colors, like the black and the blue, and I think Yeti.
Yeah.
Uh, like I just think that goes. Um, but that's I don't know. I think we're all kind of on the Yeti page. Um, I wasn't really high. What were they? What's the Outlaws?
Yeah, Outlaws, Mammoth, Venom, Utah Hockey Club. I'm forgetting one, but yeah,
Yes, I
yeah,
like the Yeti and the Mammoth. I liked. I wasn't high on like the Outlaw one. Um, I hope it's not that, because that's going to be horrible if it is. But yeah,
it's gonna be really if it is Outlaws and these are our colors, it'd be pretty interesting to see what they're gonna come up with to make that look outlaw-ish.
right. I agree. So
But it works with Mammoth and it works with Yeti.
yeah, so those are the two that I kind of favor. I actually haven't even asked my wife. I don't know what she's doing. She's in the house right now, but yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, let me just tell you from everybody else, welcome to Utah. We hope you love it here. For those of us that are from here and went elsewhere, Utah is a hidden gem, and people might think we're weird here or whatever, which is fine. Let them think that. Let them stay in California. Let them stay wherever, and the rest of us that live here can know that this is a hidden gem. It's underrated, and it's some of the best living you can have. It's a great place to raise a family, and I think you're gonna love it. And I hope you feel welcome while you're here.
Yeah, it's been great. We're in South Jordan, so we're in Daybreak, and we're like right on the island. And there's a lake here and park for the kids and stuff. We have 2 kids, so um, yeah, like we've noticed that it's very kid friendly, and we were just excited about it. Arizona was a little bit different, where it wasn't like unbelievable for the kids and stuff to do. You'd have to drive to go places. Where here you can just kind of go outside and go on the bikes and go to the park and meet other kids. So it's been great.
Yeah, it's a fantastic place. You're right close to my favorite pizza place in all of Utah is at Maxwell's Pizza. Right now. I don't know if you eat a lot of pizza during the season, but that Maxwell's right there is phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm Italian, so I have to like pizza.
Oh crap! Well, now you're probably going to be a little harsher judge on pizza than I am, but we'll have to share stories and touch base later in the season and see what you think is the best pizza around here.
All right, sounds good.
All right, Michael Carcone, thank you so much for being on the show. We're excited to see you play. And, is there anything else you want to say to the people of Utah before I let you go?
Not much. Just come watch us play, and hopefully we're exciting and yeah, you guys enjoy it.
I think they're going to enjoy it. Were you surprised by the fact that almost all the tickets sold out immediately and there were like 30,000 people trying to get 18,000 seats?
Yeah, we were pretty surprised. I There was like a crazy number. It was like it took like 4 hours to sell more than Arizona did all year
Yeah.
last year. That like it was we were like whoa. Um, so yeah, we were paying attention, we were watching and witnessing it, and yeah, it was pretty special. So I can't wait for the first game. The first game is going to be pretty crazy. I got family members asking me for tickets. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get them. I think it's going to be pretty jammed. So
Every person I've ever known has hit me up for tickets for game one. So I can only imagine what it's like for you guys. And it's gonna be epic. And it's that thing. It's how many players get to play in season one, game one for an NHL franchise. Like that's gonna go down in history. You're that guy. You're gonna be here for that. Isn't that just crazy to think about?
yeah, it's pretty cool. Like um, I've actually been fortunate. I got to play the last game in uh what was the stadium in Arizona there before we moved. I played the last game in that, and
Was it
then
the Gila Arena or whatever?
Gila,
Yeah.
Gila that, yeah, and then I played the last game at the Mullet, and then now I'm playing the first game here. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wow, look at you go. Just being in all the important games. That's very awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So
All right,
yeah.
Michael. Well, good luck this season, and hopefully we'll catch up a couple times this year.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right, that is the Utah Puck Report.